Welcome back to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. This is episode 2 with season 1, episode 16 of The Clone Wars, The Hidden Enemy. I am Kevin Horde, and with me as co-host...
Lorenzo Fawn. Hello, everybody.
Lorenzo, how you doing today?
Good, yeah.
All right.
Good.
So,
awkward silence there.
One more time?
Awkward silence. That's great. I'll cut that part out and this explanation of it.
That's all right.
You're good. Go ahead.
So, getting into episode 2, what we've got here is, perhaps I should start with where we left off. Anakin and Obi-Wan are in orbit around planet Christophsis. Anakin just made this super sweet covert mission down to the planet's surface to drop off some boxes, presumably full of supplies, to Bail Organa. Totally just thought of a question that I'm going to ask you later, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
In this episode, we jump straight into Anakin and Obi-Wan on the same planet, Christophsis, in the middle of a battle. We have 2 Jedi generals, bunch of clones, bunch of murder. Well, probably not murder. Bunch of mayhem. Shit's happening.
It's a war. There's probably some murder happening somewhere.
Yeah, I guess there totally could be. Later in this episode, we meet Asajj Ventress, which is pretty awesome. But so the basic breakdown of this episode is Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting. Everything they're doing, the battle droids seem to be outsmarting them and either flanking their rear or knowing where they're going to be, and they're kind of like, all right, what the fuck's going on here? How do they keep outsmarting us? How do they keep finding out what's going on? We're better than this. What are we doing wrong? So they kind of go on a little side mission. We got a couple of clones that figure out that maybe there's a traitor in their midst, hence the hidden enemy. So I think from there we'll just go ahead and dive into this and start this episode breakdown. So Lorenzo, what you got on your list? What's up first?
Just jumping into the appearance of Ventress.
Okay.
You know, this is
straight to Ventress. I like it.
Yeah, because Ventress becomes a big character, and again, stepping back outside of the series culturally,
right,
of what's happening with Clone Wars, we've all met Ventress before.
Right.
Not even just in terms of watching the show in release order, but you know, she appeared in the previous animated Clone Wars shorts that were on Cartoon Network. You know, there's a character that's known to the fans. Now, in a post-Disney universe.
Right.
Same question as last time. Is this her first appearance?
Yes.
Because Obi-Wan knows her.
Yes.
That is very clear. That there's no hiding that.
I think Obi-Wan more than just knows her.
Do you think they were like full-blown like previous lovers, or?
I think that Obi-Wan has a little bit of a playful side to him, shall we say, and that he may have had some behind-the-scenes interactions with some of the people that we meet along the way in this Clone Wars adventure.
All right.
The first thing that he says to Ventress, and I might be reaching here, but that's okay. I don't mind. He says something to the effect of, "Oh, Ventress, I didn't know you were going to be here. You know, how much fun we're going to have," or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't remember what her response is back to him, but I know that later in the episode, when Ventress just kind of gives up and is sitting on the ground, Obi-Wan walks up and says something to her. All right, Ventress is sitting on the ground Indian style, and she says, quote, "I'm all yours, Obi-Wan." Basically, as always, you know, there does seem to be some sexual tension between the two of them.
And there's definitely a deep shared history, not just like they've met each other on the battlefield sort of history. There's some kind of very close relationship there.
Right. It's not the General Grievous, Anakin Skywalker history where basically they know of each other, you know, in episode 3, like, ooh, I thought you'd be older, I thought you'd be taller type deal.
Exactly. Yeah, like these two characters definitely have had some sort of relationship directly.
Right.
So, but again,
probably a genital relationship would be my guess.
But again, this hasn't. Again, there might be a book out there now in the post Disney world because they're releasing them like once every month.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Like when you're asking, you know, is this the first introduction, or is this the first thing that we've seen, or do we see this in the future? And I'm just boldly making declarative statements, yes or no. I'm totally only thinking in the
in visual arts,
in the visual media.
Yes.
Well, I guess in the
motion.
In the
visual.
Yes, in the motion picture.
It's a motion picture.
Sure.
In the broadest terms, it's a motion picture. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
in the talkies.
Yeah. So yeah, if comics are still a visual medium, which we understand they are, like.
Yes, they totally are.
Yes. In the motion visual format, yes. Then this is the first appearance of Ventress.
Yes.
Moving and talking in a way that we can see her.
I'm going to say yes.
Now, do we know how much time has passed since the events of Cat and Mouse?
Okay, so I don't think it's been much time at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know why there would be a fight over Christophsis, and then there would be a lull, and then there would be more fighting on Christophsis. That seems unlikely. You know, if I get into a fight with you, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come over to your house, and I'm gonna bring my posse, and I'm gonna bring my invisible wagon, and we're gonna run into your backyard and drop off bologna sandwiches to my friend who you pushed out of your treehouse, and we're gonna fight about this. And then like later we're like, oh man, we're tired, like let's go home. And then like 3 days later I'm not gonna come back and be like
hold on, Kevin, I need a nap. Like,
I got more bologna sandwiches.
Yeah,
Lorenzo,
I need dinner and a nap before we get into this fight. Like,
right. So I'm on one hand, I'm inclined to say these are happening, maybe not back to back instantaneously, but within this is a continuation of the same battle.
Yeah, like more than instantly, but less than like a week per se. Yeah.
I would say even if it was up to a week, it is not a leave and regroup and come back. This is something that's been ongoing.
Yeah.
So this may be part 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of this particular battle, but it's the same one that was going on when Anakin is taking his invisible wagon into the backyard with his bologna sandwiches for Bail Organa.
I don't know if there's a detail I missed. I don't know if you know the answer. Do we know why the Separatists are attacking Christophsis? Is it just for resources?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is that ever explained?
It probably is somewhere.
Yeah, because even I'm looking at the various Wikipedias and stuff that I have lined up, but at least for this episode, it just says that the Republic's just trying to liberate.
Did you look up the Christophsis battle on Wikipedia?
No. But yeah, I did find that interesting that at least, you know, if we have to go to Wikipedia and go to the planets page, you know, but we didn't if it's not in our notes from the episodes for these first 2 episodes, that is another weird knock that I didn't think about with the last one. The last one made sense though of why Anakin and Obi-Wan needed to go there, because Bail had requested.
Right, because and that totally makes sense, because normally when you have a government of any size and you go into battle with one of your political representatives, you're probably going to find yourself in a situation of that person needing some help.
Yes. So that makes sense as to why the Separatists were there to begin with, or why there's continued battle, you know? Are we talking like are they worried like the Iron Curtain's gonna fall here? Like, you know?
Right. So I am I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm searching through my brain and remembering stuff that I didn't know was in there. AKA, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and it looks like General Worm Loathsome invaded and captured Christophsis, responding to a cry for help. The world's inhabitants, the Galactic Republic, and the Jedi High Council dispatched Generals Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker to go in and liberate the planet.
All right.
So it could be... I'm not seeing anything as far as like resources go, so I'm guessing that it is more of a...
like the planet was just occupied by Separatists, and then the Republic just wanted to jump in and claim liberators. Like...
Right, like why is Hawaii part of the United States? Because it's a good strategic point in the middle of the Pacific for the United States to have.
Exactly, yeah.
So that tells me that Christophsis equals Hawaii, and they probably do some surfing and grow pineapples there, brah.
I have one more question regarding Anakin, because this episode has kind of two concurrent threads.
Yes.
So I have one more question regarding the Ventress Obi-Wan Anakin side of things.
Okay, other than their sexual history?
Other than the sexual history.
Okay.
There's a point when they start fighting. This is, again, super pedantic, but Ventress starts throwing books.
I have the same note. My note is, are these books?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
They're definitely books, but then if they're fucking Jedi, why are they resorting to throwing books at each other?
Well, like, not only that, if on the planet Christophsis there is just shelves and shelves of books, right? Why is it so special that Luke Skywalker has a couple of books? Like that, yeah, I get it. They're like ancient Jedi texts.
Yeah.
But even in the Jedi library in like episode 2, they're not books on the shelves.
Yeah,
it's a big computer library. Yeah. It's a data library.
Yeah.
But so Ventress is like,
you do bring up a good point there. That I didn't think about that end. I was just thinking from a tactical basis. Like, it's like the Austin Powers moment when like Random Task throws a fucking shoe, right? Mm-hmm. And Austin Powers is like, who throws a shoe? Like, you know, like it. Why is resorting to throwing books like the strategy here? If these are the best fucking fighters in the galaxy,
yeah.
And they're literally just like throwing shit at each other. Like,
yeah,
that was just a weird little part.
Throwing shit at each other. That would be hilarious. But you know, I mean, they really threw the book at her, right? Huh?
Oh boy.
That was good.
That stays in. But no, that was just the one very odd tactical thing in this episode that obviously was enough for both of us to take a note on, you know.
Yeah, that, and speaking of Ventress and tacticality, I'm not sure if that's a word, but we're going with it.
Yeah.
So they're fighting, and she totally runs up the stairs, and Anakin like stops at the bottom and waits, and he's like looking up at her, and I wrote something to the effect of like, haha, Anakin, like she has the high ground, bro. Like you're not gonna beat her.
Yeah.
And he just goes running up like lightsaber flailing back and forth, and he's got no chance. But then, you know, Obi-Wan comes in, more fighting, and then she runs away.
Yeah.
We cut to the other storyline for a little bit, but when we cut back to this, she's literally sitting on the floor Indian style with her lightsabers, chilling on the floor in a circle of books.
Yeah.
Just waiting for them to show back up.
Yeah, like
I don't think she really wants to beat these two guys.
yeah, like, it is a weird point again with how much they're setting up that like, hey, this battle's been raging and it's again we jump right into the action, you know.
There's a solid reason for a lot of the things that happen in this episode that I will. Yeah, but not sitting Indian style in the middle of a fucking floor, waiting for
just casually hanging out,
waiting for your bro with the bologna sandwiches.
Yeah, like
or something.
Look, I'm not a master tactician, but I feel like that's the opportunity to try and find more high ground to get the jump on your enemy. I don't, especially for an episode called The Hidden Enemy, and she's just gonna sit out on the floor. Like,
clearly the episode is not named after her.
Definitely not.
Right.
Especially when she just resorts to fucking throwing books. Like, so that's kind of most of the thoughts I had on that side of.
Okay, so moving on from Ventress to
clones.
I would consider this Ventress deal kind of plot B.
I agree.
Moving back to plot A, what's your thoughts on what's going on? We got a shit ton of clones that we are introduced to in this episode. Like I said, last episode was simply one. That was CT-1284 Spark. In this episode, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5, and there's a shit ton more. But we have 5. I'm not putting them on this list until they are named by name or number.
Yeah.
So
okay. So they have somebody has to refer to them.
One good example, and this goes back to what you were talking about last week with when you're saying, when you're watching these in chronological story order, you don't have these introductions for some of these characters. One specific one is Commander Cody.
Yeah.
Commander Cody is Obi-Wan's right-hand dude. He's, Anakin's got Rex. Obi-Wan's got Cody. He's totally in probably half of the scenes in this episode. If you were just to watch this episode by itself, you'd be like, oh, that's cool. There's like a clone and some yellow armor.
Yeah.
No name, nothing.
Yep, just hanging out.
And at one point, Obi-Wan's talking to him, and he calls him Commander, and then he immediately calls him Captain. Like, one sentence, he's like, hey, Commander, blah, 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 blah. And then Cody's like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. And he goes, no, Captain, don't do that.
I didn't even catch that. I missed that part. Yeah. So, yeah, that is... I think this is something we're going to struggle against watching these chronologically in story order, because they aren't.
I'm going to say up until this is going to happen for probably the first maybe 10 episodes, because I think by then we're far enough into this story in general that we are going to have been introduced to most of these characters.
Yeah.
That, and you got to realize that these 2 episodes are prequel, so this is considered a prequel to the movie. The episode we did last week is considered a prequel to the movie. So that was a prequel to this.
Yeah.
So here in 4 episodes, when we're done with the Clone Wars animated movie,
then that's already your introduction to everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't think we're going to run into that problem.
Yeah. You do bring up
further in the future.
Yeah.
So to get back on track, we've got Anakin and Obi-Wan have run off to... I don't even know. It's not clear enough. It's not a hard enough reason that they go driving across Christophsis in the middle of the night to fight Ventress.
Yeah.
Side note, I think it's weird that during the day there's a battle and there's like thousands of fucking battle droids and all this shit, and at night they're just like, hey, let's take these motorcycles and just like drive over to their house and like we'll just talk to them and shit.
hey man, everybody's resting. It's the nighttime truce, right? Like,
Right. So
I guess there is one more point that I remembered, because with Obi-Wan and Anakin, there is, again, we brought this up last week, where sometimes the Jedi make some really questionable decisions.
yes.
And in this one, Obi-Wan himself even brings up that, I forgot who brings it up first, but somebody senses a trap, and they're like, "Oh, I do too," and they just walk right fucking into it, anyways.
Right. This is when they're on their speeder bikes on the way there to the late night rendezvous.
That's right. Yeah.
And then probably like when they're walking up the front steps, and they just go along with it. But I mean, I think that's kind of standard operating procedure for the Jedi. I mean, if you think about it,
does that make it better though? Like, if they keep making weird, dumbass decisions like that, like
probably not. But what if? I don't know. You know, if you were the
because it'd be one thing if they had a plan at least, but they don't even seem to formulate like, hey, we know this is a trap, so what's our plan of action? They're like, oh, let's just go with it. Let's just, it's Ventress. Okay, I guess we're down for this fight. Like,
I think I think that's their plan, is like, let's just go over there and like see what's going on.
Yeah,
like let's go to the mean kid's house and hope, you know, if he punches us that we can run faster than the fat kid. I don't know.
Like this time we'll get them. Like, you know.
I love how you shake you raise your fist.
I'm pantomiming for the audio only audience. Yeah, literally shaking my fist in the air. But yeah,
he looks very, very angry. I would not mess with Lorenzo right now.
No, just more weird plot issues. Yeah, and I promise we're not actively trying to tear apart the show. It's just these two episodes in particular are a little rough.
Yes.
I mean, we're already jumping a little bit to usually what we talk about at the end, but already with just plot B here, we're running into a lot of issues.
So let's talk about plot A then, and
let's get to
how
plot
you feel about what's going on there. So Anakin and Obi-Wan have gone out to dance the night of the way under the moonlight, and that leaves us with the rest of the clones, presumably all of the clones that are fighting in this battle, to on their own. We don't have any Jedi in the way, we don't have any battle droids in the way, we don't have any battle in the way. And what we find is that one of these guys is a turncoat. Mm-hmm. And so the main plot line, plot A, we've been calling it, of this episode is Rex and Cody. The no-name, yellow-trimmed clone trooper, are trying to solve this mystery and figure out who this traitor is in their midst. So, along the way, we meet some other clone troopers. R2-D2 is just kind of randomly chilling at clone base for the sole purpose of being the one that finds any useful information at all, as I think per usual.
He's there to do computer stuff that the commanders and clones can't do themselves, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Although last episode, like, King Wizards of fucking Wikipedia figuring out Trench in like a half a second.
Yeah.
But this one,
picture and everything. Yeah.
Yep. Everything.
Yep.
But
and then this one, they're like, "Oh no, we can't go into that database without R2."
Like, fuck,
plug in, man. Yeah.
Where was that dude in the ship?
Yeah.
With Yularen. Where's Yularen?
Yeah. Where's any? Well, like where's
Bail Organa?
Yeah. Where's Bail? You know.
I guess
that's why
bailed.
I'm asking, like, how? Yeah. Oh God. 2 and 1. So again, that goes back to my question: how much time has passed? Where the fuck did Bail go?
Yeah.
Was it too dangerous for? Did he need to go? Like, yeah, where's Yularen? Where? Yeah. So, but where was I going with this? I had a thought, and then yeah. So R2 was R2 in the last episode?
Oh, fuck. If he was, I don't even think we heard a beep or bloop from him.
So then, which is even more peculiar, because if this episode is in season 1, so they had already made this episode.
Yep.
And then when they get into Cat and Mouse, which takes place before it, they can already reference this to figure out where people need to be or who needs to be there to get to hit an enemy.
That is a super great point, because that is a super great point to make, because I'm still thinking of this under
the chronological.
Under the guise of chronology.
Yeah.
And knowing that Cat and Mouse was made after the hidden enemy, there just isn't a smoothness there. It's a jarring jump from one story to the next, even though it's supposed to take place in a relatively close period of time and kind of be a continuation of at least part of that story. There's some jumps that you got to make.
Yeah, because even I'm just double checking the air date for this episode. This episode's February 6, 2009. The other one you said was like late March of
March
2010.
26th, 2010. So we've got
so they had like a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, these are more it is difficult to watch. And my curiosity is if they're trying to balance maybe in this early season, trying to figure out how deep into the story they can go, because it is on Cartoon Network. It is a cartoon. They are acknowledging that Star Wars as a whole is in fact a family movie or a family series, right? Mm-hmm. And that is something to keep in mind, right? Yeah, it does get dark, so we're not saying like bring a toddler, but like you have 5, 6, 7-year-olds watching it.
I think I'm going to go on record saying that I think it's completely cool to take your toddler. So
especially when Django's head gets off.
Right. When that happens, point out the shadow. The head falls out before Boba picks the helmet up. Yep. So it's okay.
That's why it's not leaking. But so I think this will be the main thing we have to try and wrestle with is some of these. Okay, as we continue to start talking about plot A and then step back, to me, plot A is a somewhat decently done version of a cliche that has been done in so many different spy/war movies. Right. Like Mission Impossible has done this a bajillion times. Both the TV show, movies, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I think that any
Revolutionary War shows, all that.
It's almost like any long-running series is going to have this this trope of somebody you thought was on the good guy team is actually sneaking secrets to the bad guy team.
Exactly.
And the good guy's got to figure out who it is, and it's going to be one of the people that have been in this fucking situation the whole time. One thing that bugged me about this is that I'm gonna just cut to the chase. Towards the end of the episode, we figure out that it's this dude named Slick. So in the hierarchy of clones, it seems like we have any Jedi is going to be outranking any clone, but then you've got clone commanders or captains, depending on what Obi-Wan wants to call you at the time. It seems like underneath that, there's another rank that's above just rack and file clones. Yeah. And Slick is in this middle management clone position, essentially. He's got the rank and file. He's got dudes underneath him, but he still has a CO above him.
Yeah.
He's got that commanding officer. He's got somebody telling him what to do. That is still a clone. So Cody and Rex figure out that it's Slick, and they do this by using some information that R2 gives them, and then going, oh, look, R2 figured out that the communication is coming from Slick's battalion. So then they talk to Slick, and he's like, oh, no, it wouldn't be any of my dudes. No way. So they just pull everybody together, and they're interrogating everybody, and they kind of go through guy by guy, which I really enjoyed this specific section of this episode, because D. Bradley Baker really gets into his own here of, even though they're all clone of the same dude, even though they should all have the same voice, they all have little characteristics that are different, little minute details, and he's still able to throw in that Kiwi accent in there.
Yeah.
And he really just does a bang-up job of being able to hold essentially the entire vocal track of 3/4 of this episode.
Yeah. And giving them each, like you said, each
on
of
his
them
own.
Definitely has their own personality, but it's definitely just one guy. Now, I'm glad I did enjoy that scene to a point where they're all in one room and they're trying to figure out who the traitor is. Now, again, this is kind of why I brought up the intended audience for this movie, because to me, that's if Cat and Mouse was a big World War II submarine movie, then this one has hints of the 1982 version of The Thing.
Okay.
Right, where Kurt Russell, one of them is an alien.
I'm going to be honest, I've never seen The Thing.
Oh, boy. Sit down, watch it. So good. So, I won't say exactly what happens, but they are in a room, and Kurt Russell is trying to figure out who amongst them is the alien that's going to kill the rest of them.
Right.
And one by one, he's trying to knock out who the suspects are. Right? Now, that's why I say for intended audience, they're not going to be bringing that. No 6-year-old's going to be bringing that, right?
Right.
So then at the same time, though, there are some weird leaps of logic that happen when they start turning on one another. So,
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So they decide that they don't really decide. What the fuck am I trying to say?
Well, here's one example. I believe they turn on a clone named Chopper for a second.
Yes.
Right? And they turn on him because he has trinkets that he took from the battlefield.
Yes, and so what he's doing is he's taking battle droid fingers and he's stringing them up on a necklace. And I had two comments about this. One which is kind of silly. So his alibi for where he was when these transmissions were being leaked to the enemy was that he was outside stringing up these fucking battle droid fingers, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes, his literal reveal is, oh, I lied because I didn't want you to see me with these. And he just reaches behind him like he's got a fucking bat belt on and pulls out this thing with like 4 battle droid fingers on it. But like if you're hiding and doing this shit in secret, you're just gonna like hang it on your belt for everybody to see it. And then there's
But then because like I guess the reasoning is because he was hiding that everybody was like, well, what else could you be hiding? It's like, well, I mean, he's busy doing that, which is in of itself gruesome enough. You know, like if he's taking body parts from his enemy, stringing them up, right? Like that was just, it's like such a weird thing where it's like, okay, like we're part The Thing, we're part Crucible witch hunt territory here, but like that's such a low that's such a low ball to try and grasp at. Like,
well, there's also no logical connection there. Like, guy A takes things from enemies that he's not supposed to do as souvenirs.
Yeah.
How does this equate to
Like
Chopper,
traitor? Yeah.
who is guy A, is in bed with the enemy?
Yeah. Like, he's keeping fucking souvenirs
Right.
of his kills. So, like, he's proud of them.
Right. He's
Right?
not, he's not, like, making a weeping quilt out of it that he wants to cuddle with at night because he's very sad that all these battle droids died.
Yeah.
I
mean, there are other maybe psychovals he might need to go through, but there's no through point between, like, oh, shit, he's the enemy because of that. Like,
there's absolutely none.
Yeah.
If anything, it would be like, oh, we think you're the enemy. Like, oh, really? Like, I got these fucking battle droid fingers. And they'd be like, oh, shit, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. So, I will
to
say that it is pretty awesome. He's got this wicked awesome scar on his face that looks like he was burned or some shit.
Yeah.
But if you look at him, his right eye is just like a milk white eye, and it's all fucking clear and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because presumably, I guess something happened to his face, and he's blind in
Blind.
this eye. Side note.
Yeah. No, so back to my original point here that I keep laying down a long line of evidence for is this bad leap of logic excusable because they're trying to cater it towards children?
I think that I
Like-
feel like any logic
Or does it even feel
gymnastics. I feel like any logic gymnastics that we have to go through to get from point A to point B of this episode is far more excusable and more entertaining and better than what we did in the last episode. To be honest,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
so I can excuse the and I don't want to call it corny. I don't want to use as strong a word as lame or something like that. I will excuse the juvenile approach of the storytelling of this particular story trope,
Mm-hmm.
and going from there's a traitor, we need to figure out who it is. This is how we figure it out. I can excuse that juvenile approach for the grander picture of what this episode is doing.
Okay. That makes sense. I'm just, again, I did it in the last episode. I don't want to go too far forward ahead, but yeah. So sticking with this one, like, I personally, obviously, in bringing it up as much as I have, I don't know if I can excuse it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you that it's not as egregious as the previous episode.
Right.
Which again is bizarre because this episode came first, so it's weird that they kind of regressed.
Yeah, which is another reason why I think that that Cat and Mouse is just an unnecessary addition to this story. Like, if you were just dumped in to the Clone Wars, and you start literally dumped into the middle
Of that, yeah.
of some clones fighting some battle droids with a couple of Jedi, and then the Jedi leave, and then the clones have to fucking fight amongst themselves because one of them apparently isn't a good guy and is helping out the enemy for some reasons that don't really make sense to anybody except for him. I mean, I totally get it. I think that I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit there. We'll cover that here in a second, but that makes way more sense of a jumping in point. If you're gonna jump in, like, mid what the fuck everything is going on. Like, you don't do it like, hey, look, here's I don't know, here's
cool
a Jedi, and
yeah, like,
he's not real competent at what he's doing, so we'll just give him a prize, and then, like, he's still not doing what he's supposed to be doing, so we'll just fucking, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll just let shit pan out and see what happens. No, you, like, jump into the Clone Wars, and then, so...
Especially if the end of episode 2 is the jumping point into this. Yeah.
Right.
I agree with you there. Because, like, if all we know is the craziness of the start of it, Geonosis...
Right.
And then for a second, Anakin runs away to get married, you know?
Right.
And then next thing we see is this. Yeah.
Imagine if the end of episode 2 didn't have the marriage.
Yeah.
Or, not saying that didn't happen, you know, but reorganize some stuff a little bit. So Anakin goes to get married and then, like, comes back to Coruscant, and he and Obi-Wan are there when Mace is talking to Yoda, and we got all these fucking clone troopers, and they're parading, they're trumpeting, and all this stuff's going on, and everybody's getting in gear, and they're getting their shit together for the Clone Wars. And Yoda's like, "Oh, begun the Clone Wars have." Cut to credits, and then boom. Chronologically, the next thing you see is mid Clone Wars. Yeah. Shit's going down.
Yep.
We've got 2 Jedi that we saw at the end of the last fucking story with a bunch of clones.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay.
Okay, one thing that we haven't talked about yet. At the beginning of each episode, we've got Tom Kane doing this, like, 40s radio voice announcer of what's going on. Technically, he is he's credited as the narrator. Is the name of that voice. So do you think that adds to this type of storytelling? Do you think that detracts? Like, is that something that we need to address more at the beginning of each episode that we're recording? That
unless it stands out, but just addressing it overall. This isn't a bad spot only because we're right in the beginning of the series. As we're telling it, all that's doing to me is I think what Filoni did a really good job with Clone Wars is keeping the format despite the limitations of animation and 22 minutes of television, is trying to keep it very close to the format of the feature films.
I think that is a great explanation of what he accomplished over 6, 7, 8 years, however long he was working on this. I think that's really great.
So specifically with the narrator, to me, that's just taking the place of the crawl without needing to take up precious time out of 22 minutes to show a crawl.
I totally agree, and I was about to say the same thing. I would actually be interested in viewing the first 5-10 minutes of The Phantom Menace and beyond, you know, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope. We'll throw Rogue One in there if somebody could do it. Get Tom Kane to read the crawl for Rogue One, write a little synopsis of what's going on.
Yeah.
Have Tom Kane doing this narrator voice and fucking put it on YouTube and watch it and tell me that when you see it you don't smile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to me the 40s, it's a slight, like, transatlantic accent is what I would call it. You know, I don't know if that's exactly right, but to me, again, that's just Filoni picking up notes from, like, Lucas, where, you know, if and actually this is going to go back to another thing. I don't know if you thought of it, but real quick, finishing this thought, it's, you know, Star Wars is an amalgamation of, you know, the old Flash Gordon serials and then stuff like that. So going with a 40s announcer voice, to me, is the right choice. Like, it really fits, despite it being a space movie.
It really does, and it feels to me like each of these 22-minute episodes is like a fucking newsreel that's playing in the cinema before whatever nickel or dime Nickelodeon is on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to just have that whole package deal, if you're a Clone Wars hater and you're like, fuck Dave Filoni and this and that, and like, oh, they look like wooden marionette puppets and like their hair doesn't move and like, can't animation be better than this, and like all that mumbo jumbo bullshit that people
But it's on a television budget. That's what you have to adjust for, like.
Right, but like if you're one of those people, like open your mind a little bit and just picture the idea of what the storytelling is.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Yeah. So the shell of this is, so speaking broadly of just from what we've seen so far, the shell of what Filoni has done in the structure, I think, has been sound. Now it's the details of how they're telling the story or what's happening in the story that I'm going to have a problem with these first 2 episodes for sure.
Well, right. Lorenzo, that's where we come along.
Yes.
We're here to to nitpick those details, to track down those details, to insert the details that may not be there should we want them to be there.
But I think I'm glad we kind of went broad because I do 2 episodes into talking about this. I do want to make sure that people don't think we are just some angry nerds that don't like Clone Wars. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this.
Right, for sure.
But it just happens to be that these 2 first episodes are a little difficult in terms of just general plot points and liking them, at least from my end here.
I say that better to start off brutally honest and maybe come across some things that are less scratchy to your itch than to start out with unicorn puppies farting fucking rainbows.
The last thing I want to bring up regarding just overall of this episode without getting to like another, I don't really have any more like deep plot points per se, but I did like that I don't know if this was intentional. I think it's just me making this connection more than anything, but the title of the episode, The Hidden Enemy, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the big inspiration points for how the story structure of episode 4, A New Hope, was set up was based on an Akira Kurosawa film called The Hidden Fortress.
Right.
So I hesitate to make that reference, but it's just definitely there. But also because this episode is so obviously about a hidden enemy that that's logically what you would call it. But that callback is,
I think it's I agree with you. I think it's a callback.
Yeah.
It's
hard to ignore. Yeah.
Yes. It's a hard to ignore callback. I think it's also like, hey, dipshit, there's a hidden enemy. Get it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it can totally fulfill both of those roles.
Yeah, completely.
So,
yeah. All right. That's what I got mainly for this one. Actually, no, I do have one more point. When Rex and Cody are chasing after Slick, why are they having such a goddamn problem chasing down Slick?
Because the floor is slick.
Getting, again, that's very nitpicky, but it's just one of those things where, like, after everything that has happened, after the weird witch hunt that's happened,
so
the entire room is right there to take down Slick.
Right, but I think that, and they kind of try to touch on this at the end of the episode, the way that they fucking get him is that they trick him into thinking they're doing something else, and then like they're there and like, hey, we nabbed you, bad guy, right? But I think that the intention is that these guys are clones. They're programmed to think alike. They're programmed to assess a situation and respond in a certain way. So they do know exactly what, Slick knows what Cody and Rex are going to be doing. He knows the protocol. He knows their approach to, this situation. So he is able to stay one step ahead, one step ahead, one step ahead. And I really think it's when Rex and Cody realize that that's what he's doing, that they're able to go, holy shit, we need to let's take a step back. We need to step out of the box. We need to think a little bit differently because that's how we're going to catch this dude. And I mean, they're self-described brothers, right? Mm-hmm. So, guys that are bred, raised, and trained together are going to have that camaraderie. They're going to know what the other guy's thinking,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a very good answer, actually. So that does answer my complaint there. I think that one.
I have one completely random complaint.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What do we call binoculars in Star Wars? Are they viewfinders? What are those things? Is it a viewfinder?
I think
it's like
the
fucking
viewfinders, right?
thing.
Yeah, the thing that Luke looks through on Tatooine when R2's disappeared.
Uh-huh. So these things do like some zooming in, zooming out and shit, and like the dial moves up and down on the side, and it actually says like zoom in, zoom out on the bottom, but that shit doesn't change. And then there's like two options, which is like regular mode and infrared mode. Mm-hmm. That doesn't change. Like those are both lit up. But how do they work? Because whenever you see somebody use them, they just like hold them up like you're holding a fucking couple of toilet paper rolls like up to your eyeballs, and you're like, oh, zoom in, then it just like does what you want it to do, like it's reading your brain. Because there are some dials or switches or some shit that you can see on them, but you never, like, people don't actually use them. They just stick them up to their face, and then it'll switch to an interior view where you can see shit moving around, whatever cinematically needs to happen, and then it like cuts back and they're just like holding the shoebox up on their face.
That is a good question. I don't exactly have an answer for it. Like for sure, what's always interested me about those is that it is a camera / screen system that they're looking through. It's not an optical binocular.
Right.
So that's always been interesting to me as well. But yeah, to your answer, or to your question of,
do they just have like a mini Jarvis inside that doesn't speak or something?
I don't know, because I always like in A New Hope they kind of show Luke kind of messing with some of the dials briefly, doesn't he? But he's still just looking into the distance, and at some point,
I think so. I think he zooms in. I don't.
Yeah, because like
I don't remember. Honestly, like most of the times that I watched A New Hope, and really the original trilogy in general, was like either on something that was bootlegged off of whatever channel it was playing on when I was a kid, or B, like a pan and scan. So
you're missing out on the...
Yeah, I totally remember when Luke is like, oh, what's he say?
He's like, well, I see the two banthas. Wait, there are some sand people down there.
Yeah, and you can't see it in the pan and scan. You can't see it. Like,
I do remember that. I never knew what the hell he was talking about until finally I got those DVDs. I
envisioned Luke like looking through these viewfinders and seeing the banthas in the viewfinders, right?
Yeah.
And then he like pulls them away from his face, but the camera is still in the viewfinder, and Luke is like looking around to stuff that the camera can't see.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they're definitely seeing people. I see one of them now, as it's like coming up to whoop his ass, because like when you on the pan and scan, the next thing you see, it's like it goes from banthas to Luke talking about sand people to like
the one that pops up in front of
the one that pops up and is kicking him into the dirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The one that like starts yelling, like,
I'm like, no, damn it, this Luke.
Yeah, the being able to see those on widescreen really was a game changer.
It's pretty helpful.
And I have not thought about the pan and scan version in ages, but yeah, that was an issue for sure. No, but again, back to your original question of how they exactly work. As of right now, I don't think we have an answer. Cause yeah, nobody uses them in Attack of the Clones or Obi-Wan doesn't look through them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody really
I feel
does.
like wait. Zam Wessel has some type of ocular device that she's using. No, but that's just I guess that's just the targeting on her rifle, like the scope.
Yeah, it's just a general scope, right? As she's trying to.
Is she looking through some binoculars before?
I don't recall.
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's for the Star Wars Minute guys. I'm sure that
somebody
they already
explain.
covered that.
Yeah, at least again in these visual mediums that I don't think they're really explicitly covered. But
right. Yeah. So my second pet peeve.
Yeah.
Is that at the end of the episode when Rex and so Slick's on the loose, and supposedly he shut the power down to like this whole facility, but all the computer screens are on, all the fucking shit on the back is, all the buttons are lit up, the fucking doors work. Like,
maybe in like a technological world, there's like an A level technology, and then there's like. There's a B level technology, then there's like the A level, like this is running the fucking oxygen and the sewage system. That's the important shit, right? Like that goes down, then society goes down. But there's like still the B level like electricity that's flowing to that keyboard.
So he turned off the ability to flush the toilet, like.
I guess I know what you're talking about. I remember that too. I do remember. I was like, why?
Like he's hiding in the vent, and Rex is like, "Oi, man! They turned the fucking power off."
Yeah, but they're still like perfectly lit.
Bradley Baker accent. But they're still perfectly lit. All the computer screens are on. Everything's on. There's even the like Slick comes crawling out of the vent in the ceiling.
Yeah,
and there's a fucking light that's lighting up
like right
Cody.
on him. Yeah,
like right on him, like a spotlight.
Yeah, like I said, there's probably like different hierarchies of technology, right? The way that like for us the power can go off, but like a phone and the toilet still works.
Yeah, but the phone works because it's not plugged in.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like maybe like there's a different hierarchy of when technology takes too much over. Maybe there's like a split. Right, like
it's like old power, new power.
Like like life functions, and then like Facebook feed.
You know what I bet he did? I bet he turned off R2. He's like, dude, if I fucking turn R2 off, like I cut the power to R2,
then I'm golden.
Unstoppable.
Because that is the main thing they're depending on is R2's ability to plug in.
I mean, look what happened after Return of the Jedi. Like 30 years of fucking pandemonium. Luke got lost.
Yeah, because R2 wasn't on. Yeah. Because R2 was just like, fuck this shit.
Right, fucking C-3PO's got a red arm. Han Solo loses the fucking Millennium Falcon.
And can't even track it down. How is there not GPS in this? Like how is there not a Find My Falcon feature in this alternate galaxy here?
Is it like, oh, fuck, man, I can't find my keys? Like, no, they won't be in like the candy dish. Jakku. Yeah. But they totally are.
Yeah. Jakku, what?
What? Nah, wouldn't be there.
Yeah. I can't. Again, more questions that we cannot answer, at least with this information that we have. We should start the list of.
Oh, speaking of list. I started a new one.
Okay. What do you got?
What do I got? So we've got all these clone troopers that are that are introduced.
Yes.
So in this episode we had Hawk, Rex, Slick, Yester, Chopper. My question with Chopper is, does Dave Filoni just have like a boner with the nickname Chopper? Because
I was wondering that too. I did take that note down. I did take a note that just literally was clone named Chopper. Just to not confuse myself, maybe. Right. Yeah, I don't know.
So the not to cut you off, sorry about that, but
No.
the second list that I started is I'm keeping a running total of on-screen death count.
Yeah.
So in our previous episode last week, Cat and Mouse, it was super, super exciting. Number of clones that you saw die on screen was 0.
Yeah.
Number of droids you saw die on screen was also 0. So we are hot and heavy in the Clone Wars there.
Really stressing the war part of Clone Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
This episode, however, we got 22 battle droids dropped to their death and 9 clone troopers. And I'm counting this as any time that you see somebody 100% incapacitated on screen.
Okay.
So,
like, you don't need that confirmed, like, hey, that person's dead.
right,
So,
like, right.
If somebody goes down, you're counting.
Yeah.
And they don't get back up, they're down. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I will.
But you got to see it on screen. I'm not even counting like, oh, there's some
reported. Yeah.
there's some bodies on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, we see a couple of clone troopers down. Like, you actually see another clone trooper with blue markings on his helmet laying in a hallway.
Yeah. So
I don't count that guy because I didn't see him die.
Yeah, active
kills,
on
active
screen.
deaths on screen.
Yep.
To date, 9 clones, 22 droids, which tells me that the clones are winning this battle.
Yeah, no, that's a good set of rules if you're going to try and count something like that for sure. Yeah.
And it gets really confusing, especially when I like pause the episode to go take a leak or something, and I come back and I'm like, fuck, I'm like 9, 10.
You're just checking them out as like on your notes as they go, like.
No, I did this totally separate. Like, I took all of my notes and then I went back and I was like, hey, I got this idea. So then I went back and rewatched.
Oh god, you rewatched these two.
Probably 3 or 4 times each for these things, you know. Yeah,
especially with these two. No, I like that we're kind of discussing also how we're watching these. I did my 1 through with the notes, and I was like, I got what I got out of it. I don't. I
definitely probably do 3 minimum. I'm gonna say 2 minimum, 3 average.
Yeah,
possibly 4.
Well, as we start wrapping up on this one, the reason I don't is especially with these 2 episodes, they were just so straightforward, basic storytelling to me between Cat and Mouse and Hidden Enemy. And I've already kind of talked about it before, where, you know, I'm trying to reconcile in my head, like, hey, it's early on. Maybe they were nervous trying. Yeah, I'm not saying it needs to go dark or anything.
Right.
But they don't need to.
It pretty much does, though, in later seasons.
So,
it
definitely does. It definitely does.
That's not something that's out of the question.
Yeah. But like I said, so like these early episodes, they're definitely again, we're watching these out of release order or production order even. But these earlier seasons.
That's a good point. Production order is even different than release order.
Yeah, and they're
all different than chronological order. Like, all 3 of them are different.
Yeah, no, we'll lightly touch upon it, but in terms of just the idea that they're trying to figure out how dark they can go. You know, like, who is the audience for this? Is it the adults that people that were children that are now adults watching this? Is it children? Because it is Cartoon Network. It's not Adult Swim, right?
Right.
So is it a mix? And I think they are trying to find that balance, right? But to me, that just doesn't excuse just the weird leaps in logic that has happened in these 2 episodes, right? Of just the even in 22 minutes, you know, like, you can have some sense of logic and progression that doesn't make such giant leaps to just get you there, right?
Right. So last week you gave just a slight, like, just broke the cusp, thumbs down.
Yeah,
to
like
Cat and Mouse.
Yeah.
What's your vote this week? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I would give it another thumbs down, only because Again, I just kind of said some of it, but then now we've moved in just discussing it. There's still this plot B that's happening too that also doesn't make any goddamn sense.
That is very true. The plot B is 100% inconsequential and probably added to this episode strictly for filler.
Just to put Jedi in here, right? Just to not forget about the Jedi.
I have decided to retract that statement, and I will let you know why shortly.
Okay. Yeah, but so we have Jedi making some dumbass decisions. We have clones making some dumbass decisions, right? So the other one I didn't enjoy myself, but it wasn't like offensively bad. That's, we're trying to find these shades of gray in between. Right. And this one I just definitely had more issues with. But again, none of it.
So did you have more issues with this episode than you had more issues with the hidden enemy than you did with Cat and Mouse?
I kind of had more issues with this one only because. Or no, you know what? No. I retract that statement. It's a lateral move. Let's say it's a lateral move. I'm just more upset that, in retrospect, that Cat and Mouse was made so much later.
Right.
That now that we're connecting these two, that
like Cat and Mouse has fewer excuses than the hidden enemy does.
Than hidden enemy, yeah. Because like at least if hidden enemy wasn't preceded by Cat and Mouse, then we wouldn't be asking questions like where the fuck is Yular and Bale, right?
Yeah, I think that's an unforgivable oversight.
Yeah,
and that's the only thing that I can think of. I guess it wouldn't be an oversight; it'd be an undersight by making a prequel episode to the hidden enemy being Cat and Mouse last episode.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, we want to do this. But by introducing all of this stuff in the order that it was released, like you don't see that. Even if you know that it happened, like,
or it's not that fresh anyways, like,
right. You're not going to know that unless you're deliberately seeking out what happened when.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your opinion on this episode overall?
I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
The final note that I wrote down for this episode is this is the Rogue One to the Clone Wars movie.
Really?
Yeah, and it totally is. Like, it's side note, I loved Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, beautiful movie. I love it. It's great. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about it. This episode, not as equally high on my praise trampoline, right? But I really do feel like it has, it's got its missteps. Yeah. But overall, this is a way better prequel, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
This was made after the Clone Wars movie was. I think maybe Dave Filoni wanted to kind of answer a couple of things. So this episode was made, and it is way more effective than other ways that story could have been told. So in this episode, you've got a traitor with the clones that goes and fucking blows up their whole arsenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jedi leave. They see that Ventress is on Christophsis. They fight her. They throw books. Jedi leave. Go back to this shambles of the squad that they left, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ventress even says something to whatever the fucking guy's name is. The dude that Obi-Wan talks to in the Clone Wars movie, right? the droid commander, whatever his name is, blanking right now. We'll get to that. He's in this episode. Like, Ventress walks by and is like, hey, you need to march on the city so that I can fulfill my master's plan. And she goes and gets in this orange rusty octopus ship that you see in the beginning when Tom Kane is doing his 40s announcer voiceover work for the Clone Wars movie. That ship fucking swoops down and grabs another ship, and that's where they steal Stinky from. And so it's like everything from this episode is what puts in motion what happened in the movie The Clone Wars.
Okay.
Like at the beginning of that, Obi-Wan and Anakin are stuck on Christophsis with shit for fucking supplies because I guess Bail Organa took them with him, and they, they don't have the fucking equipment because Slick blew all this shit up because he was an a-hole and thought that by turning the clones over to Ventress that it was going to help them not be what he called slaves to the Jedi. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but everything in this episode builds toward, it sets up what happens in the Clone Wars movie. Those stories I really enjoy. So I give this one a solid thumbs up.
See, you're bringing more into it than, because at this point in the recording too, I haven't gone forward yet, know, and I haven't seen the Clone War movie in years, right? So that's not
probably
fresh in my
since
mind.
Like 2008,
something like that. A little later because I didn't even start watching until all of it was done. I didn't. I never even watched the movie, But just looking at this episode on its own, sure, like even if that is all laid out, this just wasn't enjoyable to me. Like, sure, there are a lot of story points there, but the main one of them trying to smoke out this traitor and just doing a piss poor job at it.
It just wasn't effective for you, huh?
Yeah. No. Just not. I just, again, as we've discussed over like the last hour plus here, I just, the logic leaps are so large that even trying to watch it through the eyes of perhaps like the children that are watching this, it just makes me feel more uncomfortable for like the children that are accepting this logic. Like,
All right, I see.
Right. So again, we'll move forward to the movies.
Yeah.
Or to the we're gonna break up the movie, right?
Yeah.
So So should we wrap this one up and then we'll kind of?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was pretty succinct, and I think we're at the end of
we've
our
talked about
back
everything
and forth banter
for the hidden enemy here. So, we're gonna. So the next one in chronological order here would be the movies, but I keep saying multiple. The movie.
Yes,
but the movie.
Episode 3 is going to be essentially the first act of the Clone Wars animated movie, and I believe that it's broke down into 4 parts, but I could be wrong. It could be 3.
Yeah, I think it's 3 or I
think it's 4 because the movie's close to an hour and a half long, and they really are essentially about 22-minute intervals.
So yeah, we'll tackle just the first part. We'll save any overall movie discussion for maybe that last
until
episode.
The end of number 4.
Yeah. So that's where we're coming up next week. So until then, if you need to reach us, there's notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter @nottthenerds, on Facebook @nottthenerds, I believe, as well.
Facebook is Not the Nerds Podcast.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, still slowly getting that to memory. So
that's all right. Lorenzo, where can you find us on Instagram?
Also @nottthenerds. So
wonderful.
If we do anything, there. So if you like what you hear, let us know. Also, wherever you can find us, we're putting this on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. So just let us know. Comment, like, subscribe. If we're going a little too long, if we're getting too into the weeds, Kevin and I definitely can get very pedantic about stuff. So
that's what happens. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it for this week. I've been Kevin. That's been Lorenzo. And remember, these aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye.